I don't have time anymore to be that kind of tortured.
Hello! We are here at Sun Sounds of Arizona in Flagstaff, Arizona, and welcome to episode 10 of Untamed Shrews, Women Talk Theater, presented by Flagstaff Shakespeare Festival. I'm Hannah.
I'm Becky.
And I'm Dawn, and welcome to today's episode about mamas.
Yay.
As you heard last month, I'm currently growing a tiny human who's due at the end of November, so this is the perfect time to talk about mamas in the arts.
Ah, you're going to be such a good mama. I can't wait.
You really are, Dawn, and we can't wait to meet him. And we have here in the studio today, virtually that is, an incredible actress and mama, Betsy Mugavero. Welcome, Betsy. Betsy, will you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Hello, and congratulations to Dawn. I'm so excited for you. I'm just minutes away from having a baby. You're going to have like the best time ever. And like I said before, thank you ladies so much for having me on the podcast. You're all amazing. I admire all of you. And this is just such an honor to be here and to talk about something that's so near and dear to my life. I've been working as a professional in the theater for almost 20 years, mostly as an actor, but I was recently a producing artistic director at Southwest Shakespeare Company, also in Arizona. Shout out. And now I'm about to head out to Utah Shakes to direct their educational tour. So this will be my first production that I'm directing that's not a staged reading or canceled because of the pandemic. So I'm really excited to start this new chapter, and it's exciting to do something in the theater that is a little bit smaller of a time commitment. Because being a mom, when you're on an acting contract, it's much longer. So it's this is really a sweet deal for me. And I feel like the universe is finally saying, hey, you're going to get through this.
Oh my goodness. Yay, Betsy.
Awesome.
I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
It was funny. Me and Becky were chatting before this, how we all kind of know you in separate ways, which is super unusual. We all sort of run in similar circles, but I just think that's funny. I originally met you at Utah Shakes when I was a kiddo, as a student at SUU. Yeah. And Becky, I guess you don't know Betsy.
Yeah, but we don't really know each other, but we did meet at a Southwest audition when I came into the room and you looked at your resume. Yeah, and you were like, oh, you went to Temple? So did I.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, when I remember your audition, I just think you're fabulous. I wish we could work together right now.
Yeah, let's do a play right now.
Yes, let's do it.
Let's go.
No longer a podcast. It's now a Zoom greeting.
No more, please.
No more Zoom greetings. And Dawn, actually, I don't know how well you know Betsy, but you guys definitely run in the same circles, being, producing humans.
Well, we met when Betsy was at Southwest for the first time.
Yeah.
And we had breakfast together somewhere in Phoenix. I can't remember where exactly.
Oh, yeah, that was so great.
We had breakfast together, but I remember it even then standing out in my mind that you were a woman actively working in the theater. And that you had a young son, and that's so unusual to come across. And so I remember it sticking out and being like, wow, she must be a powerhouse. That's a lot to take on at the same time. So anyway, that's kind of how Betsy and I met.
Oh, no, we lost you for a second.
I know. I got a phone call from Falls Church, Virginia, but I denied it. Declined it.
I want to know what show you're directing at Utah Shakes.
What to do about nothing.
Fun.
Oh, yay.
Oh, the educational tour is so awesome. Usually they come through Flagstaff because they go to the Grand Canyon.
Oh.
And they were going to come, or I had a bunch of friends in not last year's, I guess the years before, the R&J tour. And I was so sad because I was finally in town when it was going to pass through because I've missed the last few years. And of course, the pandemic canceled that. But super sad. Yeah. But hopefully when it comes through, I can see it.
Yes, I hope you can. It's going to be really fun.
Oh,
I hope.
Good. It's going to be great. I'm so certain that it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yay. Yeah. Well, shall we jump right into some questions about being a mama?
Yeah, I'm really interested in this first one, which is just basically, Betsy, how do you do it? I need to know because I'm about to have to do it.
It just says how with 4 question marks.
So yeah, when you're being a mama and an artist, how do you do it?
You know, it's so great because before I had kids, and now I have 2. I didn't say that earlier. I have an 8-month-old and a almost 5-year-old. And before I had them, I was very concerned all the time with like my performance and how I was doing. And I was like this tortured person. And I remember like laying in bed one night when I was doing Midsummer and like trying to figure out Hermia, and this was my 3rd time playing it. I was like, why can't I understand it? And I was like, kind of like, Hermia is not Hamlet, like let it go, like just have fun. And like I don't have time anymore to be that kind of tortured. So I'm like tired, and when I'm in the room and I'm having the chance to rehearse, it's like make the decision, go with your gut, and it really has served me well. Nice. Because when I'm home, and this is like a very Ruth Bader Ginsburg thing, when I'm home, I'm with them. I want to be mom with them. When I'm at work, I want to be myself at work. So I have to give 100% in both places. And I've learned this because if I try to work at home on stuff or, you know, just think I had the same kind of time to contemplate my character and my stuff that I want to do at home, it's just not going to happen. I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to feel like a bad mom, or then I'm going to feel like a bad actor, a bad director. And so I use the time as wisely as I can. And that serves me so well as an artist.
Wow, that's a great answer.
Going with your gut.
Yeah, go with your gut.
Yeah.
I have a lot of that right now.
Yeah, I was
going
gonna say,
with your literal gut.
And like your gut's gonna stick around a little bit longer than you're used to too. But that's how. I mean, you figure it out, and it's definitely there's a lot of growing pains. And I'm very lucky that I'm always surrounded by really supportive women, whether they're moms or not. So when you're in the room with Becky and Hannah, you've got 2 people who are cheering you on and who will give you the grace that you need in moments of high stress.
Yeah, I know I do.
We love you. So now that's like more of like the emotional part of it, but in the how question mark, I see in the outline that you mentioned like childcare and stuff like that. So can you talk a little bit about like the actual logistics? Because I know that your husband is also an actor. And so I'm seeing stuff about like being in different shows is helpful. And so like, can you speak to like, if there's a mama out there who's, you know, maybe a new mama, but, you know, so far has been, you know, working in the theater world and they're like, now what? So how can they sort of navigate staying within that sphere with a tiny human to take care of?
It's so tough because in every other industry, for the most part, your childcare needs to happen during the day. So there's daycare, there's school, and then you're at work. But in the theater, we work at night. And I mean, sometimes we rehearse during the day, but we perform at night. So you end up going, oh my gosh, there's no daycare from 6:30 to 11. And if there is, I'm not sure I want to like drop my kid off there. Like they need to go to bed. And so we've really had to navigate finding childcare and good babysitters, and a lot of it was finding through like care.com. Maybe that could be a sponsor.
Honestly,
a lot of it is finding it through care.com, which is kind of scary. You're like, I'm bringing a stranger into my house, and I've been super lucky. There was like one time we had a weird person, but that's the most stressful part of navigating it all, is like having to have someone come in and watch the kids. Now, if you have family or friends who are willing to do that, it's also, there's the expense to factor into it. And you know, we don't make a ton of money as theater professionals yet, but it's temporary. Like this is one time when you get to continue doing what you love doing and what is your purpose in life. And maybe you're like eating ramen every day to be able to afford a babysitter at night to still do your play. But like these moments are fleeting. These years are brief. So if you can stick with it and like budget well and get the childcare, 5 years from now, your kid or whatever will be in school, and like things will just be different. Like it'll just be easier. You won't have the same expenses. You'll probably have more, but it'll be different. So I say like, it's stressful. There's a struggle, there's a learning curve, but like, if you really want to do it, just stick with it.
Do you find that you had the support of the theater companies you were working with? Or like, if not the institution itself, maybe like your stage manager or your director or individual people, if not the whole company?
I think I had to advocate for myself a lot. After I had my son, I was playing Juliet at Utah Shakes, and they built this costume where like they could totally hide like my breastfeeding body, and it was brilliant, and I looked 14. It was like kind of amazing. But I was breastfeeding, so I was pumping during intermission, so I was like pumping for 10 minutes like both, and then going out and doing gallopapes right after that. So there was like no time to rest. And like, it was just this huge adrenaline rush. And it was honestly one of my best experiences I've ever had on stage. But rehearsals were tricky. There's only 10-minute breaks. I had to pump. I'd have to like explain to people, like, I might need like a 12-minute break. And I was lucky that they understood that. Stage management was supportive of that, but like, no one was like, hey, do you need a little extra time?
Yeah.
I had to say like, I'm going to need extra time. And it was scary at first, but then I just did it because I just said, I need 12 minutes. I need 15 minutes. You know, they can work it out.
They can handle the 2 minutes without me. That's crazy. And do theaters ever give childcare, or is that just like absolutely unheard of?
It would be lovely if I could say that, yes.
These people do, yeah.
At Utah Shakes, they have childcare for patrons.
Oh.
So you can drop your kid off during your show, which is, so when we're in performance, it's excellent.
But rehearsal, no.
No. So like I said, I hired babysitters, and I don't have family nearby,
right?
Anywhere ever. So it's like, it's constantly figuring out that aspect during rehearsal for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Traveling and being a mama and being in theater, because I think that's one of the luxuries that I have, is that having a baby here in Flagstaff is quite a different set of circumstances. I have so much family, been rooted here at Flag Shakes for so long that it's a little bit easier, I think, to like plan and navigate some of these. But that's not the reality for most working women acting in theater or acting moms, because gigs usually take you from place to place. And so then once you get there, you have to refigure, like, how do I, now who's childcare? Now where do I go? Now how do I, so I just infinitely more respect.
And like housing even. I mean, like, I've had to say, I need air conditioning because I have a baby.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, sorry, and luckily people acquiesce. I mean, people are fine with it. It's like, it's just about having to say it, which makes you feel like
air awkward. Conditioning anyway.
I know, but like, you don't want to create a problem, because I think we all fear like there's 800 women behind me who want to take my job.
Yeah.
Right. And I used to be really insecure and afraid and jealous and all those things as an actor. And now I'm like, if I think that I don't belong here, then I don't belong here. So I think there is space for me, and there's space for all of us. So I don't know, I'm not afraid of that anymore. And I have something valuable to offer the theater, whether on stage or off. And as a mom, even more now, because I'm just in a different emotional place as a human. And so it's like, I don't want to feel bad about saying, I'm going to need air conditioning.
Except in Flagstaff, there is no air conditioning, so separate situation.
And no one has air conditioning.
So Betsy, when we hire you, which is #goals, I will have to say we don't have air conditioning for you, but that's okay because it gets like a high of 80.
I promise you, I will make an exception for Flagstaff.
It's problematic like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
of
like
the year.
3 days of the year.
We'll just make sure your contract doesn't overlap.
It's okay.
2 weeks a year.
How silly. Something you mentioned actually goes into this next question. So do you feel like there is prejudice towards you as a mama when it comes to casting? Like, is being cast harder as a mama, or do you feel like just because of those logistics, like specifically for Flag Shakes, like we do housing hosts. So I don't actually think we've ever had a mama audition. So I would have to, let alone like a family, like a family unit come to us because we, get housing hosts where it's like you stay in a room in a house. Yeah. So at least for Flag Shakes, that would be like something we have never experienced. So do you feel like it really like limits your opportunities of theaters you can work with, or do you feel like people just overlook you because, you're technically quote unquote harder to cast, just like resources wise, or?
I don't know. I think that if somebody really wants you, they're going to make it work. As a producer myself, like when I was one, if I really wanted an actor, I was willing to do whatever it took. I mean, I was willing to do whatever it took. Like when we were doing this all-female production of Richard II, we had 4 moms, and I said to everybody when they signed on, and I was like, whatever you need, like, let's make it. They were local. But it was like, if you're going to be late, if you need to bring the kid to rehearsal, we'll make it work. Don't worry about it. We want you in this role. So I think I have also been part of companies where I'm staying with a host. I think it's a great opportunity to ask board members, look, do you guys have a guest house? Do you have an Airbnb? Do you have a basement apartment where you can have an actor and her family stay? And I bet an actor like myself, if it's even a 1-bedroom apartment, like I'll make it work because I want to work. Right. So you'd be surprised. Like I wouldn't let that deter you when you're casting people or looking to the future of hiring more parents. People are going to be so grateful to be able to work that, they'll say yes. Especially
as a family unit. If it's somewhere that they can all go together and stay together, I'm sure that's few and far between.
Yeah. And also like, come on, going to Flag, like that'd be so awesome for a family. Like that's like a summer in paradise.
It is. It's absolutely stunning. Yeah. I mean, we're just going to sell it to you even more, Betsy. We
have locations.
Well, all those actresses that are listening out there, bring your kids to your audition.
Yeah. Honestly, though, we need some children sometimes.
Yes.
If you're already a child of the human, that works.
Makes it easier. I do have a question, both for you, Betsy, and for you, Dawn. I'm 30 years old, and I'm, kind of starting to think like, do I want to have kids in my future? And at least at this point in my life, I'm like, I'm not ready for that. Like, how could I even do that? So I'm just curious for both of you, like, did you feel ready, or was it just like, well, I would like to have kids, so now is as good a time as any? Like, was there a thought process behind that? I don't know. I just get so nervous about that.
I thought I probably didn't want kids, and it turned out that I was just in entirely the wrong relationship. I thought I probably didn't. I thought I definitely didn't want to have a baby ever. And it turns out I was just in the wrong relationship. And once I was in the right relationship, it was really clear to me, much sooner than it was clear to him, that I would like to have a baby. But I think it's one of those things that, it's not necessarily for some reason. For some women, I think they do know. They always know. I want to have kids, or I don't want to have kids. And I think for some women, it's fluid. I think that the set of circumstance that you're in can really dictate it. Like, oh, like I'm this, I thought I wanted kids, but now I'm at this point in my life, and it seems like the life I'm building for myself is working out really well. And I don't necessarily want to add kids to that equation. Or it could be, oh, whoa, like I kind of, and am in this relationship where I feel supported at the point, or I guess, it doesn't have to be a relationship. It could be a community, a situation where you finally feel supported to the point where you're like, oh, I could have a baby, and I would have everything, like all the tools that I need to be able to do that without like losing everything that I've built so far. And frankly, Anna and Becky, you guys were a huge part of this decision for me. Because pre having staff at Flag Shakes, I always risked losing that one baby for the other, right? Yeah. So it was like, if I had gotten pregnant before now, I know that Flag Shakes would have fallen apart. There wouldn't have been the infrastructure, the staff to keep it going through a maternity leave, through early motherhood. And that was a different decision that I made. Like, I made the decision to start this company instead of have a baby at one point, and then once things were, going well and I have staff and everyone can do their job and like I feel really confident taking a maternity leave.
I don't.
You're gonna be great, Hannah. You're gonna do great.
JK.
Then it felt different. So I think maybe that's not a great answer to your question, Becky, because it's more of a like, well, I didn't know until I was pregnant either.
No, I think that's a great answer, because it's like you mentioned, like, all these things weren't quite right at the right time. And so I just feel like, it's so woo-woo of me, but like the universe was just like, it's not now. Look, all the things are lining up. It's now. I mean, how wonderful.
Yeah.
I just think that's great. I'm so happy for you.
And I want to hear this cute little story that pertains to Becky's question that you left in the outline about challenge accepted. How cute is this story?
Okay. So, I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced this, but like, you're sharing a dressing room with an old grand dame of the theater. And I mean, like, women of a certain age who have like really muscled their way in this business. I mean, they were, especially in the Shakespeare world, like if they're still working at I'm going to say this is like 10 years ago. If they're still working at 50, 60 years old, like they have been through a lot. Yeah. But I was sharing a dressing room once with a woman, and she was, much older than me and single. And I said something about like, yeah, I think I do want to get married and like have kids. And she was like, well, you can't do both. You can't have kids and be in the theater. You can't be a married person and be in the theater. And I was like, oh, okay, challenge accepted. And then that was like years before I got married. And I knew my husband at the time, but it was years before I got married. It was years before I had kids, but I was just like, I don't want the industry or other people in the industry limiting me because of their experiences. Right. I want to be able to say, no, I'm going to get everything I want out of life. And that will only make me a better actor and a better artist. If I allow other people to influence me and make me feel like I can't have the things that I want, then I'm not really living my life to its fullest potential. And I didn't even know at that time if I definitely wanted to. It was just that like, I was like, I'm not going to have somebody tell me no. At the same time, people will be like, you gotta have kids. It's not worth it if you don't have kids. Life is over. Like, I wouldn't listen to that crap either. Like you have to decide what's best for you. And so I also think that I want to say that women of a certain generation were told that all the time. And they watched their peers have children and have marriages and not be able to sustain a career in the arts. And that's tragic. And we have to make sure that that doesn't happen to our peers.
And that's where, that stereotype comes from, unfortunately, because it has happened so many times. So even though it's not, the exception, not the rule, right? Like it's a little bit of the rule only because that's what always happens is, you see the like really successful young actress who like makes it through her 20s and then she meets someone, she falls in love and she's like, I'm going to have babies. And then she never works again. And you're like, darn it. Yeah. Like she was so incredible. And I really was thinking she was going places and she just didn't have the time. She didn't have the resources. She didn't have the ability to get up and move because maybe her husband had a very stationary job. And, like there's just so many factors, unfortunately, that make that story so normal, which really does it sucks so bad. Like it's tough.
It's really tough. And I want to say too, it's like, to your point, Dawn, like when you're with the right person, they're going to want you to pursue your dreams and they're going to want to have a family with you because it's what you both want together. So you need a supportive partner, whether or not they're in the arts and they understand who you are and what you do. But there are times like right now, this whole pandemic, oh my gosh, like I never thought I was going to have to take this huge of a break. I never thought I'd lose my job. It was crazy. I went through the hardest time of my life over the last, 18 months. And I'm fortunate that I didn't get sick and no one I know got sick, but like it it was really challenging as an artist to face a world without theater, and then become this, like, being thrust into being like a stay-at-home mom almost, and my husband having to completely pivot his career because one of us has to work, and I'm 9 months pregnant and we're about to have a baby. Like, oh my gosh, like nothing could be worse. I mean, great, and also difficult timing. But like I think I also had this conversation with this great director, Britannia Howe, about because she and I were both freaking out, like right when the pandemic was happening, that we weren't going to work, and like, what are we going to do? And I was like, we're always going to be artists, whether or not we have to take a year off or 2 years off, or we have to have this kid and we decide we want to take 5 years off because we just want to give every ounce of our energy to the kid. Like, it's okay. The theater will still be there.
Yeah, theater's not going anywhere, regardless of your child existing or not.
One of the things that I think is like a hopeful point is that a lot of those, what that older generation of women experienced was men in the positions where they would be casting them, where they would be making decisions about how a company was structured, kind of back to your, even back to the point of like, is there prejudice? Like, if there is now, it was so much more extreme for women 20 years ago in this industry, because they could just as easily say, oh no, I'm not going to cast a mom. I'm not going to cast someone who's pregnant. I'm just going to cast, the next ingenue who comes along, and forget about it. And because we didn't have enough women in those positions of director, executive director, company manager, then you really don't have any way to facilitate women, having babies and being mamas. So I think here we are, like Betsy's directing a show and she's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to have these actresses in here, even though, there may be different set of challenges because they're all mamas, but I'm going to do it. And that's how we keep women who are mothers working in the industry, is having other voices who can advocate for them. And not just mamas, but, dads should be thinking about it in the same way. And I think that they're being asked to more now. So I think that's a really powerful, shift in the industry.
Yeah. We need a call just for mamas. Seeking mamas.
Seeking mamas for play.
Seeking mamas for play. How silly.
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time. So
Betsy,
Dawn, is there any, or maybe Betsy too, Dawn, do you have any advice just for mamas out there, or maybe, women like Becky and myself who are, considering having kids in the future, and obviously we are theater artists or just performing artists in general. Do you just have like some parting notes or suggestions or advice for all of those mamas out there of just words of wisdom, anything like that?
I mean, it's
just
really,
encouraging words.
It's very cliche, but self-care. I mean, as a mom, it's so funny. I say this all the time. Like, the people around me are yelling and screaming when they're hungry and they're tired, and I'm responding. But I can't yell and scream when I'm hungry and I'm tired. And I have a great partner. My husband's amazing, but I often feel like I'm on my own as far as like taking care of myself, making sure I shower, making sure I have food, like, because I'm so worried about maintaining the household and the family and what we're doing, and like making sure everybody has their needs met, that by the end of the day, I really have not had like a minute to think. My husband's like always like, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want? And I'm like, silence. To be alone. And it sounds horrible, but like, there's no time for you, and it's so difficult. And I think you think, oh, just give yourself those 10 minutes, but it ends up not happening almost every single day. And I'm still trying to figure that out. And I'd love advice from listeners or anyone. Send me a DM on Instagram, because even with the most supportive partner and with children who are lovely and well behaved, I am missing myself and my identity all the time.
Yeah.
Not to bring it down.
Yeah. Bring it back up.
It's so amazing. Like the kids, they're just so crazy. And they're like, I say they're ministers of chaos because they just like, they come into your life and you're like, what was I thinking? And I'm always like waiting for the real mom to show up. Like I feel like I'm the babysitter.
Yeah.
And I'm like this fraud of a person. And then I look at them and I'm just like, oh my God, I love you so much. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. Like the other night, sorry, this is just a little anecdote. The other night, like I went out for the first time in ages and like I had way too much to drink. And I came home and I like was drunk and I was like falling asleep. And like and I was able to get up and take care of the kids. I wasn't like terribly, but like when you don't have any time, you go like a little crazy. And that's perfectly candid of me. I don't care if people can judge me. But the next day I was like crying because I was like, I feel like I missed a night with them, like because I did something for myself, and I just feel like I have.
I love it.
Anyway, it's like you've got to do it, and then you're gonna feel bad about it, and then you're gonna like I don't know.
Yeah. I love it. Now, for everyone who's not on Zoom, August just opened the door and said, "Hi, Mom."
Yeah. You probably will hear this in the playback, but he said Alice puked, and Alice is the dog.
Oh, yeah. Gross, Alice.
Dad's having a great time out there.
I'm sure. The last 32 minutes and 16 seconds have been tough on Dad.
Can we keep this going?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just sit here by myself and talk to myself.
So no one knows.
Betsy, we're not going to call him and tell him this podcast is over.
He thinks it's an hour and a half long form chat. He knows nothing. We really need more time with Betsy. So Betsy, how can people find you if they want to interact with you or hire you or see your stuff or anything like that?
I have a website. I can send that to you. I have, I'm on Instagram as Branffy, Branffy. I think I'm private because I put pictures of my kids up.
Of course.
But you might be able to message me. I'm on Facebook. You can message me on Facebook. I mean, I'm so open. I'm so excited for every woman in this business, mom or not. It's like, it's such an amazing thing that we get to do. And as storytellers, and our voices are so important. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do with Untamed Shrews, Just we're three girls sitting around chatting about being a gal.
In theater.
Yeah.
Sometimes with guys.
Sometimes with guys. Yes, that is true.
Guys can be shrews.
That's right.
That's true. Guys can be shrews. All right.
Thanks for listening to this month's episode of Untamed Shrews. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Becky.
And I'm Hannah.
Join us next month for an episode about our biggest stage disasters, costume malfunctions, forgotten lines, body checking stage pieces. You name it, it's probably happened.
Follow Untamed Shrews on our brand new Instagram at Untamed Shrews Podcast. We are, of course, still on our Flag Shakes Instagram and on Facebook at facebook.com/Flagstaff Shakespeare Festival. All episodes of Untamed Shrews can be found on sunsounds.org, the Flagstaff Shakespeare Festival YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher.
This episode of Untamed Shrews starring Dawn Tucker, Becki Zaritsky, Hannah Fonts, and Betsy Mugavero. Show art by Calliope Luedeker. Podcast theme song by Cadence Lamb. Podcast produced and edited by Hannah Fonts. Presented by Flagstaff Shakespeare Festival and recorded at Sun Sounds, Arizona. Special thanks to our audio engineer, Gina Byars. And thank you so much, Betsy! We're so glad you're here with us. Yay.
My pleasure.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you next month.